Welcome to the Wine It Up a Notch podcast, a podcast where we talk about wine, life, and everything in between. My name is Anshu Grover. I'm a wine specialist, and I am your host, and I am so glad that you have decided to join me today. Thank you for doing so. Today, we will be going into part 2 of my interview with proprietor and winemaker Jean Philippe Saby from the Saint Emilion region of Bordeaux. Now, if you missed part 1, you've got to go back and listen to it. It was fascinating, and Jean Philippe shared some excellent information, which, is definitely the preamble to what you're hearing today. So, like I said, if you missed that, go back and check it out. If you are listening in your earbuds to this podcast, that's fantastic. But I just want to remind you that this particular episode is available on YouTube in case you have not yet figured out that you can get this podcast on YouTube now too. So if you're interested, go check it out. And if you are watching on YouTube, hi there. It's great to see you. And with that, with no further ado, let's go over to part 2 of my discussion with Jean Philippe Saby. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. So we're getting 90% of Chateau. How do I say it?
Ocha.
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 H-A-U-T-H-A-T.
Okay. I know how to spell it. My French is not amazing, though. And then we also have Chateau Guillot.
Chateau Guillot, which is the mountain side of Chateau Saint-André-Corbin. In fact, Saint-Georges-Saint-Emilion is the smallest appellation of Bordeaux. It covers only 180 hectares, very tiny. And you have the Saint Emilion Grand Cru facing to the north. So it's one slope south exposure. And on the other side of this slope, you have the plateau of Montaigne. And it's only a road. You have a road separate the Saint Georges side and the Montaigne side. And on the other side, this is Chateau Guillot. And we sell the Chateau Guillot not at the same proportion as the Fronsac, but we sell it maybe 20-30% of the production in the LCBO.
It's a beautiful wine. It's the wine that, caused me to reach out to you, and I've written about it on my social platforms. I really enjoyed it. Now, what markets are your wines going to? So where are you mostly sending your wines when they go international? Are they being consumed in France as well?
So I must confess that I am a bit lazy for the sales force. When I have a client, I start a relation with my client and I develop it. The evolution is to have a stronger commitment to promote the wine in the market of my client, or to receive lots of buyers or sales force rep to explain the wine, because this is a strong commitment for them and it's strong commitment for us. And I must say that this is my best option to develop my business. As I grow my estate, my vineyard, I grow my commitment to the same client. So I sell my Fronsac 90% in Ontario. I sell 90% of the Saint-Georges, Saint-André-Corbin in the United States. I sell maybe 30% of my Saint-Emilion Grand Cru and Château Rosier in France, 30% in old Europe, I mean Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, 30% in United States or abroad. We are very widespread. Never put the wine in the same basket, but
Don't
sometimes
put all your wine in one basket. Yeah.
no, never. Sometimes when the product fit well to a market, because of its history, because of many different things, you keep focusing on this market. That's why 90% of the Fronsac is sold in Ontario, and 90% of Saint-Georges Saint-Emilion and Saint-André-Corbin is sold in the United States. And I've seen during the COVID disease where nobody can move, nobody can explain the wine, promote the wine. I've seen how strong my commitment with my old clients were. All the business were by phone, and it works. It was a very good moment for us to realize how strong the commitment with my client was.
Now, you've mentioned people come to visit you. You explain to them about the wine and, of course, the family's approach. Do you also visit the markets in which your wine sells?
Yeah, exactly. This is quite important. I've never been in a market where my wine were not distributed. But when I see that the moment is good for me and the market is ready, I go and visit the market to promote the wine, to explain not for my client, but for the distributors of my client, the sales force of my client, the wine shop manager of my client, My clients are importers. They have different clients, and each time, if you explain to your importers what is your policy, what is your philosophy, what is your way of making wine, he will translate it to his retailers. He will then translate to your customers and then to the restaurant, to the waiters of the restaurant, and the speech will be different. This chain will have a distortion. And sometimes it's quite good to go and explain and to see directly the rep to promote the wine directly in the supermarket, in a wine shop, or even in a restaurant or in a winemaker dinner. That's really important. Also, which is really interesting, is to go to the market and listen. What is the feedback of your wine or the feeling of the market, where they are waiting for a new, slightly different type of wine, if they want a more fruity, easy to drink wine, more natural or a more oaky, whatever. It's good to listen and to learn what is the feedback they can give to you. I have an example in the American market. We changed the caps. The caps used to be traditional caps, but in copper, it was too expensive and we have to change to aluminum. And when the aluminum caps were put, it was wonderful. The bottle was very nice. We ship the wine, and for us, it was cheaper and more efficient. But when I went there and I was talking about these new caps to the waiter in restaurants, they said that it was a nightmare to open
Oh no,
it. They cut themselves because the aluminum was too
so
strong
sharp.
and too sharpy. So I realized that it was unprofitable because nobody wanted to open my bottle. It was too dangerous. So I realized that it's not a good option. It's a
Right.
small example, but most of the time it's very useful to go to the market.
No, absolutely. That's an amazing example because I think it really shows how you're, interested in your customers and listening to them and how they're experiencing the wine. Sometimes I think, we think about wine as a very romantic thing where you're with the land and you're with the grapes and you're creating your art, but there is the other side as well with the consumer.
And most of the time, people like wine, but are not focused on the knowledge about wine. They just appreciate the wine and they don't want to know more than the quality of the wine. And the quality is something very personal. And I realized that the wine need to be exactly at the right moment. It's important not to be too difficult to open the wine, not to be difficult to prepare the wine too much. It's important to stay with a good wine to lay down, but it's also important to have a wine ready to drink because what is more important is to satisfy people and to have a maximum of satisfaction of the people. And I don't think complication of the wine is a good way to make the wine inaccessible. Sometimes it's counterproductive and it's not a good way. It's not a good way.
So are you a fan then of screw cap closures? Do you have both screw cap and cork?
I have no screw cap
No.
yet. I wonder if the market and certain market maybe will be ready to have screw cap. Honestly, I'm quite, how can I say, I can't be the first to make the decision to make a Saint Emilion Grand Cru in screw cap. I can't. I'm not strong enough. I'm not courageous enough. I'm not courageous enough. Even if now we have a good feedback of the evolution of the wine and particularly the laydown potential in screw caps, I know that we have very nice results. But it's tradition. Sometimes tradition stops you to be more efficient.
Maybe that's the next generation's evolution. You never
I
know,
think
right?
so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not worried about the evolution. It will be the case. Sooner or later, it will be the case. I'm
Yes.
absolutely convinced. That's the
It's
way.
interesting. I've been doing a lot of reading about it, so I was fascinated to hear what you would think. What I'd like us to close out with is some of the passion with which you talk to me about maintaining the land and passing it on to your children if they want to, continue. And you gave me a fantastic quote you might not remember, but it did make it into my paper about the land that you got and the land that you want to basically return to the next keeper of your land. So I'd love if you would just tell us again, which vineyard are you sitting in front of? Show us the mountain in the back. And then I would love if you would talk to us about your philosophy around sustainability. And if you could as well, maybe talk a little bit about Bordeaux at large and some of the challenges that the Bordelais are facing when it relates to climate change or sustainability, profitability. I mean, any of that sort of stuff, I would just love to be able to share your perspectives on that with anybody who watches or listens to this.
Let me just start with one of the main topics personally, because I'm nearly 50, I enter in my 50s. And for me, the transmission of my industry, my assets, my philosophy, my legacy, my passion, transmission is not only a matter of patrimony, it's also a matter of philosophy, passion, and way of life in general, because the commitment is so strong. You have no Sunday, no Saturday, no particular holiday. If I can sum up my philosophy, I am the ninth generations of winemaker, and I don't want to be the last one. But when I say that, I don't want to make too much pressure on my children, because obviously the future is theirs and it's not mine. And I know that they have to find their own way, their own life, even if it's not exactly my life, it's not exactly my way, but I want for them that Saint Emilion and wine growing be part of their life. I need to accept that this is their own choice, and to show how wonderful and how passionate, how challenge is the winemaking business in general. It's not only a matter of agriculture, but it's also a food industry. It's also marketing, promoting, selling, and now tourism, which is a very strong part of my business too. So yeah, it's a very wild field of different jobs, and they have to find their own place in this. In general, if I can talk about Bordeaux and wine in Bordeaux in general, what is the most impressive in the Bordeaux region is how strong the wine industry is. You see vineyards everywhere, to the east, to west. You see wonderful buildings, modern, traditional, authentic, completely crazy. You see different type of making wine, just like a melting pot, and all this is around wine. We think about wine, we dream about wine, we drink wine, but also we see the future with our wine. It's not possible to imagine Bordeaux without wine. That's the way it is. Even if I don't know exactly what kind of wine growing and wine making it will be in the next 20 or 40 years, I can't imagine that Bordeaux will not be able to find a solution to fix all the problems we will have to face in the next 20 years or 40 years. I'm sure that we will find a solution, because too many people are involved and are completely deeply passionate by wine.
I think what you've hit on, just for me to summarize it, is really that, I do think that Bordeaux is facing some significant change in terms of market
Yeah.
preferences, in terms of climate change, in terms of even intergenerational interest in continuing family legacy. So there's quite a bit of change afoot. Someone who has visited Bordeaux, has loved Bordeaux wine for a very long time. I'm very happy to hear your enthusiasm and optimism. So I've taken so much of your time. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you would want to leave us with, or anything else we haven't covered that you want to share with anybody who watches or listens?
No, just to say I'm very proud to be part of this Bordeaux wine industry. And I am also very confident in the next generation to find a solution of any problem they will have to face. That's my faith.
I'm with you on that.